Aloha, welcome back to another episode of the Gun Talk. I'm flying Hawaiian, your host. We have Big Hoss here.
Hello, everyone.
So, this week's episode, we're going to talk about 3D printing and ghost guns. So, before we get right into it, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors of the channel. We have W. If you like really good energy drink that doesn't give you a hard crash, W is the one to go to. Right now, for the W promotions for at least this month or until next month, our codes give at least 30% discount. So use our codes to get your discount, get your favorite W drinks and everything. So the next sponsor I want to introduce, if you like good parody shirts like that, exactly like what I'm wearing, check out Threads of Resistance. So I got their shirts. I'm wearing one. They're a really good company to go through. So Big Hoss, what about 3D printing?
Well, 3D printing gun parts is a bit of a hobby of mine. Currently, I have printed out handles and well, that's about it. But it's mainly just parts for guns.
Okay, what kind of parts have you printed, and where you facing like a legal aspect of it?
Well, I strictly print parts that are non-essential to firearms, like handles, pieces for like accessories, um, and stuff like that.
Okay, but on the legal end of it, what do you know of the about the law, especially there in Louisiana where you're at, about printing gun parts? Because I know federal law prohibits for for sell use. You can use it as a personal, but you can't sell them.
As far as I have seen no law saying that it's, as long as it's something minor like an accessory, there is no law against selling them. Now, I think it would be completely different if it was, say, an AR lower or a Glock frame or something like that.
Okay. Well, that brings up a good one. Like for people who are going to be watching this and don't know much about permit. Do you guys know the difference between a ghost gun and an actual firearm? Because that is a big thing to know. Um, Big Hoss, correct me if I'm wrong. Ghost gun is a unserialized firearm. It
Exactly.
us- it's usually the lower receiver that is unserialized. As Big Hoss said, 3D printing a Glock lower or AR lower, and that's what houses the parts for the trigger, the safety mechanisms, and stuff like that. So, the biggest thing I would have to say with if you want to get a ghost gun or a 80% lower, um, make sure you follow your state laws on that. But um, with 3D printing, that's a whole new world that we're looking into because it's a new thing and people are doing some crazy things with it. What are some of the things that people have done?
Well, like you said, creating ghost guns, which are like they'll create liberators and liberator single shot style guns to use in specific crimes. On the legal end, some people will make customized frames for uh, like handgun and for like AR rifles and regular rifles.
Yeah, on that part, chime in. Um, the very first ever 3D printed gun uh, looked like a complete block of different parts with a round plastic barrel.
Yes, it was a single shot use only, basically like what they called a suicide gun. Basically, you were going there with one shot, one kill, and you were probably not going to be coming back from that situation, or you were looking to get a firearm from the person you just shot.
Yeah, didn't that like have a bunch of malfunction issues when coming from a 3D from plastic really? 'Cause that's what 3D printing is about is plastic. But I do know there's some 3D printers have moved on to metals.
Yes, there are metal 3D printers now. They are used in industrial machinery prototyping. Um, they could potentially produce decent firearms should the like gun makers and things want to prototype their prototypes into more functional things to test before cutting costs on certain parts.
Yeah, because I've always thought, I want, because I'm a gunsmith and a firearm instructor, I want to get my FL for manufacturing, but I've thought of ways to try to come up with a new AR lower that could be cost less and be as durable as, let's say, the $300 one you buy at a gun shop. But
Well,
the yeah,
quite frankly, I find that just regular PLA, which is your extruding printing, if you do it right, can be just as durable as any polymer.
Welcome, Canyon.
Yep, sorry, I was having computer trouble.
Oh, it's all right. We're getting really talking into about these 3D printed guns.
Yep. They have them, and I mean, if you don't care much about living, they're available.
Yeah, but with me, I'm more worried about the legal side of it. As I was explaining, it's like I wanted to get my FFL a class 7. That's the manufacturing, and that way I can try to do a 3D print of an AR lower and try to make it cost efficient, but also durable as the $300 one that you see in gun shops.
Right. I mean, if you have the machine to do it, it's very possible that you can make a high quality body that will hold up to the force of firing an AK bullet. Because it's just a part of the gun. It's completely legal because it's not the firing mechanism. It is a part of the gun.
Well, we all know that the lower receiver is the one that's serialized, and that's what government is really attacking everybody with 3D printers. Is are those lowers that cannot be serialized?
Except now they are coming up, companies are introducing serialized trigger groups that count as the firearm.
Isn't that force reset trigger that's serialized that first came out?
They are, but they have regular semi-automatic triggers for housing specifically for 3D printed firearms.
So bringing that up, serializing triggers, how are they going to do that? Because that's such a small part. That has to be like micro stamped or something.
No, it's not the trigger itself. It's the trigger group.
Oh, so when they sell the actual trigger group, is what they're serializing.
Yeah, it's basically like how they did Glock.
Did you hear what they did to Glock now?
Oh yeah, a guy with a 3D printer actually ended up making the Gen 5 fully auto again, even though they said it was almost impossible.
Yeah. But also, California made Glock remanufacture their handguns to a B series. It's crazy. It's not like Glock V is what they're calling it. There's several on YouTube that showed the actual firearm, them testing it. I'm like, why? If there's a will, there's a way to make any kind of firearm either untraceable, more like a machine gun, and do whatever they want with it because criminals are going to be criminals.
Yeah, and they're much smarter than you give them credit for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about who they know and what options they have. If you have enough cash, you can do whatever you want with it.
Oh, yeah. And that brings the question of the day here, because since we're talking about criminals, do anybody here know what a 4473? Post down in the comments below. We'll let you guys know at the end of the episode what 4473 is. So I'd like to see your guys' answers or your thoughts of what it is. I know Big Hoss didn't really know what a 4473, but with that, it criminals get around it, and it forces more law-abiding citizens to jump through government loopholes, or not really loopholes, but rings of fire, pretty much, to get what they want.
Yeah.
But like, what I know, there's new 3D printing coming out, new stuff coming out that's making big, and government's paying more attention to. You know, like I see on the ATF website, revolvers 3D printing. Shotguns, silencers, machine gun conversion devices. But how does, in your opinion, because how does that work in an actual firearm, especially when it comes to plastic?
Well, it all depends on the material and the the material. It's mainly what materials you have access to, what you're willing to machine, and then what you have access to. Because, like, for example, revolvers, you can 3D print almost everything except the barrel, the cylinder, the where the bullets go. Not the cylinder itself, but the chamber of the cylinders.
That's the cylinder, because what it is, it's milled out a round piece of metal that makes what the cylinder is for each of the chambers.
Yeah, but you can get around that by using tubing, metal tubing.
Huh. So this is not legal advice. It's not, hey, this is how you guys do it. This is educational purposes only.
Yeah.
But what is like the strong, like, plastic that is easy to buy for some random Joe that's just screwing around and want to make something of their own, but it could possibly lead into legal aspects where the government could come in and say, "Oh no, you're doing this. This is illegal."
Quite frankly, the setup I have is probably the cheapest and most available you'll find. It is a PLA extrusion printer that can print out several different materials, including PLA and then ABS. Now, you may recognize the term ABS. That's because
I think of ABS as the anti-brake locking system. But I know it's something completely different in the 3D printing world. So can you please explain that part?
Well, ABS is actually a plastic that's already used in injection molding for shotgun stocks, shotgun forearms, AR lowers, and what you call them, stocks and forearms of rifles. So you can print out the same material that you're making that the guns are being made out of, but it is, of course, slightly that's a more expensive because it's a more durable plastic. But the cheapest one that I have managed to get a hold of and is the PLA. It's easy to use, $20 for a 2-pound roll, and that will last you a good long while. If you design the part strong enough, with just the right amount of infill and wall thickness, you can make it quite strong.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with the 3D printing world. Okay, but how durable are these plastic? I see all over Facebook of people 3D printing different stuff and everything, and all those seem pretty cool. But in the firearm world, let's say someone printed a AR-15 lower that can be attached to a upper that is chambered in 5.56. How durable would that be?
If you do it right, like I said, it can be just as durable as a polymer.
Okay, so the fulfillment of the 3D printers are almost the same as polymers that gun factory uses, pretty much.
They're formulated differently, and the polymers can handle a little bit higher heat than the PLA can, so it's not exactly the same, but it's strong in the forces, shock absorption, and stuff like that. As long as it is not exposed to high temperatures.
Okay, so how easy is it for someone to cross the line of printing these and getting in trouble just for it being, an innocent thing that they're creating for themselves and using it only for themselves?
Well, whatever you can do, you cannot. Um, if you do this, I would consult your local laws because they vary from state to state, just like any other law. But also consult the federal law. Um, as for making it an actual working firearm, I would still consult with the ATF and get it registered. No matter what, have some sort of at least one serialized part is needed.
Yeah, talking about with serializing, it can cost a lot of money to get something serialized. But the best suggestion, if people want to go the legal route, make sure you send that piece that you want to be serialized to the ATF so they can approve it. Once it's approved by the ATF, then you can move on to serialization. And that could lead to a bunch of different paperworks. When it comes to that part, make sure you get a lawyer because you can end up getting screwed over.
Yeah, and like I said, there is a slight way around it, slightly more cheaper and more approved way is buying already serialized parts from licensed gun manufacturers that have specifically intended these to go to 3D printed uh, pieces.
Yeah, because all this can lead up into a lot of trouble, maybe years in federal prison, and no one wants their rights getting taken away like that just for something innocent.
Yeah.
Nope.
But I know because I deal with uh 80% lowers, and that's the only difference between 80% lower and 3D printing is 80 percenters are pretty much almost all the way made out. All you have to do is drill a few more holes in it and make sure it fits. 3D printing is you just print it out, everything's all ready to go, sand it down, maybe, I'm guessing, and the finishing touches.
Yeah, and you can also just fill it with like they make special fillers and stuff like that. You just coat it on like a spackle and then sand that down. But another thing you can get with 3D printing is customizability. Like you can make pieces of sculpture, like whatever you want, and have that as like the front of your AR or your thing, and have it look really cool.
Yeah. With mine, when I have to deal with 80%ers, um, I have to do the finishing touches, the chair coat, or the any kind of finishing I would want on it. Plus, I drill all the holes that needs to. Um, so, with that, I know the state of California has banned 80% lowers. That, if I remember correctly, if not, people please comment down below to correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe that is correct, though.
Yeah, all because there's been a lot of crime leading up to 80%ers, and it's easy to manufacture a firearm and then use it for crime, but for people who are law-abiding citizens that want to have that little project because it's a nice project to do, there's fine lines. With 80s, you can have it for yourself and only for yourself, but you cannot go out and sell it. That is the drawing the fine line of it. If your friend said, "Oh, I like that, Laura, like what you did. Can you make me one yourself?" The legal answer to say is no. You go buy, you make it yourself. There's like jigs to help beginners of how to drill these holes in and everything. So, good legal advice. Answer is always no if people want to buy your 3D printers, guns, or your uh, 80% lowers. Uh, have you had anybody offer you money for the 3D printing that they seen?
I mean, I do some projects for money, but so far I
Is it for
I don't
firearms?
I don't sell any firearms or anything. I only sell firearm accessories. If
Like
I
what kind of
would,
accessories?
like I said, I don't do major firearm parts. I do like handles, um, Picatinny rail, adaptation for like pieces, just little pieces of art that you could put onto Picatinny rails or
Okay, so you're making stuff that make it the bling and whatnot type of thing.
exactly.
So that's not a legal means. That's because they're not actual firearm parts. So that's not illegal. It's a legal aspect of it. The illegal parts, like we've been telling you, is that things that you cannot sell without an FFL.
Hmm.
So everybody that's watching, like, if you want to borderline on that, please, we're not giving you advice to borderline. We're giving you advice to keep you away from that border.
Yeah, that's why I recommend getting a piece of firearm that is to the actual firearm. They'll have different states and different companies will have these specific parts that count as the firearm itself. and then build around that. Do not start everything from scratch.
Oh yeah. Here's a good question: Is have you ever made a holster out of a 3D printer?
Not yet.
Man, that'd be really interesting to look at. Is if you can create a actual holster, though, a functional holster for a firearm.
Some companies actually do it.
Because I'm used to making holsters with a condex or some kind of foldable plastic.
I mean, it's completely doable. All you need is the dimensions and a little bit of know-how. But yeah, that'd be pretty easy.
And here's another one. Have you ever made a blue gun? You know those fake dummy guns that firearm instructors use to help train people.
No, I have made functioning prop guns.
Huh, that's very interesting. Oh, because like I've been trying to find ways to make blue guns and all that for to help me out to train people while I'm in classes and like that.
Yeah, I haven't really printed out anything specifically for our local PD or anything like that, but it is completely possible to 3D print those because you can find free models online for tons of guns that you could just print out and then uh, use for movies, practice.
Hold on, I gotta step away, you guys. But here, continue up, Big Hoss. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, if you do choose to make things for local police departments that are like training weapons, first off, consult them. Second off, get their approval and ask them what they want, and then work with them regularly to, get their okay on, yes, this is what we want, or anything like that. But it is very easy to make realistic firearms that look like the real thing, but and work like the real thing, but they cannot really truly function.
Absolutely. By the way, I could always use a holster for my Sigma and a ankled foregrip for my 22.
Okay, I can do that for you.
All right. But yes, um, you know, 3D printing whole guns, it's not meant to happen because after one shot, they're done. Um, I mean, I, I've never heard of someone actually making a clip fed.
Oh, there are a great many nowadays, but the barrels are not plastic. The
Right, I'm talking about an all 3D printed gun. having
Well,
a clip and actually working.
well, there is a case of one person. He had to work heavily with the U.S. government to get it okayed, and he worked closely with the ATF, but he managed to make it using a combination of PLA for outer pieces and 3D printed ceramics for barrel and high temperature parts.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Where are we at?
Oh, we were talking about how there were no true full 3D printed working firearms that worked more than once, and I was telling Kanan that there is in fact one person who has, but he worked closely with the ATF, got everything done correctly. He was an FFL holder, and he 3D printed the outer components in PLA, and the inner hardened components that needed to hold heat with a specific ceramic using a special 3D printer that 3D prints um a powder that then can be baked.
Okay, are you talking about the finishing kind of powder?
No, it
Or are
is
you talking about like when they put it into a mold and cook it?
it's like that, except now they can 3D print it and then bake it, and then it turns into the ceramic.
What? That wow. I'm a little speechless on that. That's coming new technology now.
Yes, it was fairly recently, and like I said, it was done closely with ATF, and it was completely 3D printed with special parts. But
Yeah,
that's
that's
the only case I have seen to date of a fully 3D printed firearm.
well. When I was looking at the ATF, it looked like. Let me go up to the website. It shows that they made categorized into 10 different categories. Okay, they got a 3D printed pistol, 3D printed revolver, 3D printed rifle, 3D printed shotgun, frames and receivers, machine gun conversion devices, destructive devices, machine guns, silencers, and other deformed looking weapons.
Yeah.
Looking at all this, I'm seeing how much technology has changed. I'm like, what's going to happen next? And talking about 3D printing, how long does these parts take to make?
My my biggest part, which was the skullcracker um for pistol grip for my shotgun, to make it took uh the final product after over a year of adjusting, tweaking, and modeling. It took about 1.5 days.
Okay, how long does it take to print these parts out? Like once
That's
you're
one.
done and everything and say print, how long does that take?
That takes 1.5 days,
Alone just to
depending
print it?
on depending on layer height, speeds. Um, with all the settings nowadays, it doesn't take long. It takes longer than it would if it was just like injection printed, injection molded.
Okay. Because all of, like, thinking about 3D printing and these 80 percenters, it takes time to do, but 1.5 days to print out a piece, that doesn't seem very much productive, does it?
Um, I mean, again, it depends on what you're doing, how rough you want it to be, how much you're willing to go back and sand it. Yes, it can be productive if you do it right, but it will take time, but it will take less money.
Okay. So, as we're talking about these 3D printing and everything, you know, even with doing 80 percenters, I think I've done 80% in less than a day, but that's having the right tools and everything for me to drill these holes and make sure they're right and everything. Um, when I was in school at SDI, I built a PSA dagger from just parts that they sent me. And that took me, you know, about 2 hours,
Yeah,
roughly.
yeah. The actual, as long as you have pre-made parts, it's always going to be much quicker to do. But like I said, with my Skullcracker pommel, I specifically made it to be extra durable. You can get around it whenever it's like the wall thickness of a um a lower. You can get around this by certain like layer heights, and you could get it down to probably about 7 hours to print out a full, ready to be put on uh, piece.
Okay. Here's also a good question. During that 7 hours to a day and a half of letting this thing print, how many errors can you see that can cause the printing to stop?
Well, there is always the chance that it. I even have these problems now, and I've been printing for a long time. Of occasionally the filament will stop, or the uh the uh the plastic will kind of the filament will break going to the next line and then have to refill itself, and it will leave gaps. um but it's more of the along the lines of the faster you go, the typically the more errors you are likely to come across.
Okay. So we're bringing up errors. That very first ever 3D printed gun, that was the one shot only. How many errors do you think, and this is out of speculation, that guy had when testing out that firearm before he actually tried to use it?
um there's quite literally thousands that could have happened in printing, but again, it's all speculation of if this person really knew what he was doing. Did he take his time? Did he set up the 3D printer exactly the way it should be? Did he have all of his ducks in a row, or was he kind of going on hope and just pure determination?
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys saw this TV show. It's called The Good Fight. You know, and one of their episodes showed that very first ever 3D printed gun, but the episode that I saw showed it when he test fired it. It blew off to the side and sent a shrapnel into someone's side, causing damage.
Exactly.
And then when they went through the whole entire episode, trying to figure out what caused it to malfunction like that, because the the gun expert there created 3D printed one, test fired it in his own safe area tester, and it didn't malfunction at all.
Wow.
So, Kanan, were you saying something, or was that
No, I was just saying, wow, that's neat.
Oh yeah.
Well, quite frankly, it's how you print it, how many parts you print it out of, and where you're putting the stresses. Because if you just print it all out at once, out of one block, and you make it say if the bottom of the gun is on the print bed going up, that means the layer lines are at a point where if you put any pressure in it, it will split in half.
Yeah. Here's another good question, okay? And this showed up in the Good Fight episode I'm talking about. If you change one aspect of the design, could that cause a weak point?
Um, Very possible because again, you need to know exactly how your stresses are going to be handled, what parts are going to be at the most risk of breaking. It's really hard to tell exactly what you're going to do unless you either research it or test.
Okay. So if someone wants to get into 3D printing, is it the best? What's the best way? Because I know a lot of people show on Facebook, here on YouTube, and all that of different ways to 3D print. But what do you think is the best way that will help a beginner? And not even just say about firearms, but into different other things.
Well, if you don't have a lot of money, it, if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend just getting a cheap 3D printer. I honestly am still working with the very first printer I got, and it was for like $190. Um, you then can find free, whatchamacallit, modeling from, like, I use a 3D model on Microsoft. It's a little more in depth of how you have to figure it out because it's taking basic shape and then using other shape and to minus away from the uh, the model. But there are uh, but this is if you're going trying like the budget route. There is some of the cheaper or mid-range uh, modeling software
Mhm.
that is much easier to use for beginners. Um, it is very user friendly, and if you get that combined with a cheap printer, you can get a splicer for a pretty good splicer called Kira. That's free. It's a really good splicer. It does its job really well, and you can start printing.
Okay. Well, we're getting about closer up, so we're gonna recap about some of the things we talked about, plus also answer today's question. But we talked about the different legal aspects of 3D printing and how much trouble you can get into. We didn't talk about how many years you can get because it all depends what kind of trouble you get into. Big Hoss here talked about the different ways of printing certain things, the stress points, stuff that beginners would need to know about when they're 3D printing stuff for personal uses. And also talked about 80% lowers. Anything else you want to add in?
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
you go ahead, Kanan. I was just saying that's pretty much everything I could attribute.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's about it. There's nothing much I can add to that. There's those people that do it one way and those people that do it another. But that's pretty much it.
Just make sure you do not cross that thin line to illegal. Keep it on the legal end because, you can ruin your life.
Right.
So, I'm going to show you again. Today's question is, do you know what is a 4473? Do you know, Kenan?
I do not. It sounds familiar, but I would lie if I told you I know what it is.
A 4473 is the background check everybody has to go through when purchasing a firearm. It's also
That's why it sounds familiar.
Yep, it's the form 4473 from the ATF that we have to fill out. Ask, are you a felon? Are you an illegal immigrant? Are you a fugitive from justice? Have you renounced your citizenship status? Stuff like that before we can have that firearm or that lower receiver in our hands to walk out of a gun shop. It's also called a NICS check. And if you guys don't know what NICS stand for, NIC, it stands for National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Okay, so this is what all law-abiding citizens have to go through to purchase a firearm, a lower receiver, or anything that is serialized for an actual firearm. So we all learned something new today.
Yep.
Yeah, we just call it background checks down here.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people call it different things, but when some random person's like, do you know what a 4473 is? Like, not really. That's a really important thing to know. But before we end off this note, December 13th, I am hosting a Colorado handgun permit class. It's called a CHP. Anybody in the Denver area or state of Colorado wants to get their CHP, please click down the links down below. My company, Flying Hawaiian Tactical Training and More, is the host of the class. So I'm going to show you a little, if I have it. I don't even look like I have it. Yeah, I do. A little ad from USCCA. If you guys are not a member, please become a member. It'll help you in any kind of self-defense situation.
Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals. Take a class where you will get the foundation needed to obtain your CCW permit. Get the confidence you need to act as your family's first line of defense. Learn about home security, marksmanship fundamentals, firearms basics, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, physiology of violent encounters, the legal aspect of using deadly force, and the aftermath of a home defense incident. Register for your Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals class today.
All right. So, anybody else want to end this off with a good note or tips?
Don't do drugs and always consult local laws whenever doing anything that might be illegal before you actually do it.
What about you, Cannon?
I know for this month, according to the website, if you use one of our codes for Dubby, you get 30% off.
Yes, please use one of our codes. We get credit, and you guys get a 30% discount on it, on any items from tubs to shakers. And
For
they
just
came
general
out,
merchandise, I think.
yeah, I think they came
They
out
got
with,
the hoodies and stuff.
yeah, didn't they come out with 2 new flavors?
Yeah. One is sour blue raspberry, sweet and sour blue raspberry, something like that. But it's a blue raspberry flavor. And the other one, I don't know what flavor it was.
I think it was orange. It was the chainsaw orange slice or something like that.
Was
Yeah,
that it?
I believe so. It's supposed to be to show support of the Chainsaw Man movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So
They released a bunch of stuff for that, like when they did for the solo leveling and stuff. And Superman also. Or no, Superman is another site. Never mind.
So if you guys do love Dubby and everything, look
Yeah.
at the ad, and I will also re-put down our codes down below in the description. But on behalf of my company, train hard, stay safe, fly Hawaiian. We will see you guys next episode on the Gun Talk.